All right, guys, we're here. Very exciting day. We have the new 219 Battleship all rigged out. We brought this boat over to Fish Electronics about a week ago. Jake and the boys absolutely crushed this setup. Big thanks to Jakers, Mimong, and Jared as well. They have rigged my boat better than any boat I've ever had rigged. It is the cleanest. It makes the most sense. It is the most solid as far as mounts. We've got a bunch of cool features on here we're going to take you guys through right now, starting at the dash. All right, we're going to start right here at the dash, and we have a very similar setup to last year's boat. We have a Solix 15 up here on top, and then a Solix 12 down below. Just pop these things off, power them up for you guys. And the reason I love this configuration is that the 15 is what I'm primarily running for mapping when I'm in the back of the boat, being that I musky fish out of the back or guide out of the back of the boat. Being able to have this set at my map full screen makes it a lot easier to see from the back of the boat, being a 15-inch screen. I've had 12s here in the past, and it's just a little small. The 15 just makes everything bigger and can blow it up. And then when I'm up here in a trolling scenario or graphing scenario looking for fish, I'll generally run my side imaging up here on top, and then I'll do my mapping here down below. So having the two different size screens come into play due to what I'm doing versus having just two standard, the exact same size screens. We did have to put in a Bass Boat Technologies shorty mount in here, which is an aftermarket mount, to get it to fit in here very nice and snug. This setup is absolutely super crisp and clean, even spacing. Both units are angled just slightly so that I can see them perfectly from the back. And having that angle, it eliminates any kind of weird glare or anything else from the sun. So when I'm in the back of the boat, these line up really nice. Slight angle here, like I said, from where my captain's chair is. So the most important part with these is probably the mount that they come with. So the mount that we did a couple different mounts in this boat, but as far as the two mounts in the dash here, we went with stable mounts. Now this is a mount that I have not used in the past. I know it's a really well-built mount. It's actually made right here in Minnesota in the United States. Guy makes a super solid mount, and this is what worked out best for our dash mounts. I believe they're 4 inches, Jake?
6 inch.
6 inch?
Yep.
6-inch stables here, and these things are rock solid. We did one up on top of the dash and then one kind of down in this cup holder, but super solid mounts. Those things are not going to move even in the waves that I can find on the Great Lakes. So with these units and with the rest of the units we're going to show you here in the boat, we did have to run 2 5-port switches. These are the new light up 5-ports. The guys mounted them below one of my foot panels down here, but they're super easy. I can see them, very accessible. They're not going to get wet at any point throughout the season. The wires are pointed straight up, so there's no kinks. Nothing's going to get pinched. You're always going to have good readings there, and it's easy to pull that panel off and see if we ever have an issue with an Ethernet cable, exactly which one it is. That's the beauty of the new 5-port switch. There's no guessing anymore. There's lights right on the top and show you which one is giving you trouble. So that was a really nice feature we added on this year's boat. All right, guys, we're here in the back of the boat, and this is a section, this is what I'm most excited about, I would say, or this is where I spend all my time, is right here in the back. One thing we added this year I changed is we went with a full track system mounted right to the gunnel. In the past, I've ran it off the Lund Sport Track, and we've had some adapters. The only issue with that is that there's a lot of flex and play in them in that scenario. There's also a lip that you can have a net that gets stuck on when you're going to net a fish. And this longer track gives me a lot more options. I can get down rods further back in the back of the boat for trolling versus whereas the sport track doesn't go nearly as far back as I would have liked it to. So we went with an 84-inch Cisco track. It's definitely overkill for what I need, but when we get into trolling scenarios where we've got a lot of rod trees, a lot of rod holders, that long track really comes into play. We had to do a little custom bending.
We did.
I would say.
We did have to do a little custom bending.
Just due to the fact of how long the track is, and there's a natural curve in the boat itself, but we've got them through bolted in the front and back, and then we ran screws in the center and then epoxied everything down. So it is rock solid. It's not going anywhere. It is definitely more stable and secure than the old adapter plates that we would put in the Lund Sport Track system. Now, for the 2 units back here, we have 2 units. We've got a Solix 12 and we have an Apex 13. Reason for the one different unit, the Apex, is we're going to be doing a little bit of screen recording this year, show you guys some more electronic stuff so we can get a really nice clean picture, and that's the only one that has an HDMI output. But as far as mounts on these 2 units, we've got the Cisco track mounts. Now these are a custom order. You guys can get these from Fish Electronics. I got them from my boat dealer back in Appleton, but you can get these custom ordered for Cisco to slide into a track. I ran these last year and I absolutely loved them. I kind of planned to use them on the whole entire boat, but the stables actually worked out better for on the dash. So with these, there's a ton of adjustability in them, and they also have not only thumb screws to tighten down, but also Allen heads, so you can really wrench them down. and they don't move. I put them on my boat last year in June, and I never had to tighten them or touch them until I took them off the boat in the end of November last year. So I think, Jakers, your first time seeing them. Your thoughts?
It is. They are rock solid. I mean,
the gimbal is what's moving. It's it's not the mount. They are absolutely incredible.
They don't move, and they're beefy.
We're shaking the whole entire boat. So super happy with those mounts, how they turned out. We've kind of got a staggered look here. So then what I'm going to be running in the back here with these two graphs is we're going to have a full screen Mega side imaging and then a full screen Mega 360. So I can have two full screen units back here, utilize all the space. I don't have to do any split screen with my mapping because I have my 15 up here. And then again, these are all Ethernetted back up underneath the dash. All right, we are up here in the bow of the boat, and we did something a little bit different this year than what I've done in the past. In the last 5 years of guiding, I've never had a graph up front for my customers. This year we did put a Solix 10 up here. Reason being, when we get into fall fishing or even fishing like out in the middle of the lake where you're not casting at a specific shoreline, it's much easier for someone to reference just a quick look at the graph, see where they're at, check the Lake Master chip so they can make the right cast. Also having a 70-30 split where they can see a 2D sonar that's coming straight off of our Tarova to tell them how deep the water is. If we get into a later fall situation and they want to be working their bait closer to the bottom, they don't have to worry about snagging nearly as much if they know what the depth is and they're not asking me every single cast what the depth is. So we put a Solix 10 up here. One thing we did a little bit different than what you'll probably see is we mounted it off to the side of the gunnel and we put it on the starboard side. When I do all my fishing, we're always fishing off the port side. So I wanted this unit to be offset, not in anybody's way. I didn't want to take up any foot space, and we did not want to flush mount it due to the fact that I put all my Thorn Brothers rods here in the rod locker, and my 10-footers need to run all the way to the bow in order to get them to fit in my rod locker. So instead of having all those cables and that unit running right in my flush plate, we moved it here to another 6-inch track and another one of those Cisco mounts to mount it here on the side of the boat. I can take it on and off very easily if I need to, but then all the cables are ran right into the right side of the gunnel and then ran back to the dash there. So no wires in the compartment where my rod tips are going to be. Don't have to worry about breaking any tips or having any tangle issues up there. Very clean. Everything got moved back to the dash. So one big change this year for me, something that's different, is we have my 360 again, which I've been running the last 5 years, and I absolutely love it. I wouldn't have a boat without it. But in the past, we've had it on a cornfield crappie bracket that mounted to the Tarova. Now, this year's boat, we have a new, different trolling motor, and no one has an adapter for that yet. So we had to find some sort of system that was able to run my 360. So what we ended up coming up with, I shot some ideas, brainstormed ideas with the guys, and they came up with a total mix-up of I don't know how many different brands of stuff in order to make this work. 2, 3 Jakers?
3.
Something like that. But we ended up using a TKI mount with a cornfield crappie 360 pole to kind of make it a double mount, or I should say a single mount just for 360. Now this is going to come off of here. Very simple. Very easily slides up and down. Now here we have our 360 deucer at the bottom. We have an extension here so that I can use the whole entire length of this 360. It's actually be a little bit longer than the shaft of my trolling motor. If you can get that 360 down below your trolling motor, you're going to get an absolute crystal clear image. There's going to be no trolling motor shaft in your way. But then also we have the ability to change the height of this if we get in any shallow water or anything like that. We can simply slide this TKI bracket down, 2 Allen screws, slide this collar down, and we can change how deep our 360 is in the water. Shallow water situations, we're going to want it up a little higher. If we're in deeper, rough water, we're going to want it in a deeper position so that we're getting a good, clear image and that the transducer is never coming up and out of the water. So I got to give my hats off to these guys for putting this together. It is a totally custom deal. I don't know anyone else who is doing this with all these different parts and pieces, but it ended up working out really good. And again, this was recommended actually by Jake. He has one of these TKI poles on his boat and just was super happy with how solid it is. You can move around at high speeds with it if you need to be in a trolling scenario or a graphing scenario, or even just moving in and out of the spot or fishing spots at a very high rate of speed. It's going to be a super solid mount and by far the best one we thought we would have. All right, moving to the very bow here. This is something that I'm actually super excited about. This is the new Minn Kota Tarova Quest. Now, this is a whole redesigned Tarova for this season from Minn Kota. It is, I'm going to say, incredibly heavy, beefy, and maybe over-engineered. It is an absolute beast up here. The whole mounting plate, the whole engine, the motor itself, the steering section here is so much larger. Everything is beefed up, overdone, and that's what I need in order to get through a season. In the past, I've broke 2, 3, 4, 5 trolling motors in a season. I've always got a backup or 2 with me. I'm really excited to put this thing to the test. The reviews I've been hearing from the guys that are using it on the Bass side with the Ultrex is absolutely insane, just as far as power and torque. And there's a handful of cool new features on this here that I want to run through you guys real quick. First off is this locking collar. Now in the past, Minn Kota has always suggested when you change spots or travel with your trolling motor to slide down your, call it our collar here, all the way down to the bottom, because they have had, and I've had it happen once to me, where you will have a trolling motor that deploys as you're ripping across the lake. I snapped 1.5 on Leech Lake. It was not very fun. I wasn't very happy. But now with this new collar here, it's actually just one little flip of a tab, and you can lock that thing down, and you cannot deploy, and you can keep your normal collar in the same place. There's no having to move that. So as you click in your Terova, it's right there, one button, super easy, super simple, and you don't have to worry about that motor ever deploying again when you're ripping down the lake. Another thing I really like with this new Terova Quest is this kind of cable keeper, or some sort of it kind of keeps all your cables in check. It slides very easily up and down the shaft, but it's not making a big mess on your deck. It keeps everything nice and tidy and neat. Also, they have the link cables that run now through the cable in the top and then plug into the top of the trolling motor itself, which is actually really nice and handy. It keeps your floor a lot more clean, keeps everything inside of those cable twists itself, and it's just a cool little add-on that's going to be something simple, but I think something that's going to make my life a lot easier. Another thing, as they're saying, there is a lot on here, is this new depth collar. Now with this new one, there's a simple tab here that you simply lock down. It's a lot heavier duty, a lot easier to slide up and down. There's no more threads or twisting. It's one slide, click it down, you're good to go. Very easy to move. And then with this new Terova Quest, there's no more having to lock in the trolling motor perfectly. Well, once you put this motor in the water, it's going to automatically orientate itself to straight ahead, and it's locked in right away. There's no more having to twist the head or push your buttons on the foot pedal to get it to drop in and lock. As soon as you put this thing in the water, it is locked and ready to go. There's no more messing around with it. So makes it a lot easier. Anybody can deploy it, anybody can stow it. And again, everything is just really, really well built and overbuilt, I would say, which is what I'm looking for in a trolling motor. All right, staying up here, one thing that we did have to put on, and is an absolute must with all my boats, is a quick release bracket. Now this one is an MK56. This is a new one for the Quest series. It's basically a massive plate that has a giant U-bolt that goes through it. Now, it's very simple and easy to swap out trolling motors very fast. Just a simple cotter key, and then that big U-bolt you pull out. And then we have a secondary Quest for this. We also have an Altera this year we're going to try. They also revamped the Altera. It's bigger, badder than ever. So we're going to run our Terova when we're dealing with cool situations. Right now we're in early spring. We're going to have some cold nights, maybe some ice buildup. We're going to stick with our Terova. And then come summertime, we're going to swap this motor out, go to the new Altera Quest, put that thing to the test, and see what it's all about. And again, it is overbuilt, I believe, really well built, and I'm excited to try it. It'll make my life a lot easier not having to come up here and stow and deploy the trolling motor 30 times a day during muskie season. Tap a button, 2 clicks, it's coming up or it's going down. But anyways, got to have that MK56 on your every trolling motor you have. All right, the thing I'm most excited about with this new Quest is the brushless motor in the bottom of it. Now, this brushless feature is going to make the motor itself a lot more quiet. It's also going to make it a lot more efficient. They're talking about 20% more efficiency, and you're going to be able to run that much longer with the same exact thrust. Now, this thing is a 115 versus the old is a 112, but more torque, more thrust, and now there's no more 36 or 24 volt trolling motor. It's simply, the trolling motor is smart enough to know once you hook it up to the batteries if it's a 24 volt or a 36 volt. So this one is obviously going to be hooked up on a 36 volt system, but this exact same motor can also go on a 24 volt system. Now if you need to swap trolling motors back and forth or whatever situation you're in, it makes it a lot more simple, a lot more easy. One trolling motor does it all. Turn it on. It's on 10? Literally sounds like it's hand. Like all you hear is a prop. So we just deployed the trolling motor here to see what the actual motor sounded like, and you can't hear the motor itself. All you hear is the wind coming off of the prop. Slow it down to 5, Jake. So there it's on 5, and I can't even hear the wind of it anymore. But there is no like hum of the motor itself anymore. Like that is so quiet and so stealthy. Like this is gonna be sweet for shallow water. In my opinion, I think it's gonna be a big thing when it comes to muskies and follows and just fish hearing, or they're so used to hearing trolling motors and vibration from the prop and all that is just, that's really, really freaking cool. All right, so one other really cool feature we have with the One Boat Network is the ability to run our trolling motor from our graph. So we got my Solix 15 here, our Tarova Quest is powered up, and I can go down to the bottom left corner, hit our little trolling motor icon, and I can control the steering of my trolling motor right here with the push of a button. If you guys watch, I'm gonna go left, I'm gonna go right, I'm gonna go left. I can turn the trolling motor on and off from this position. I can also hit autopilot, record, spot lock, any of that stuff right from my graph itself. No more having to find the remote or having to go back and reach for the foot pedal. I can do it all right here, touch of a button from the comfort of my captain's chair. Okay, so one thing I did last year with my boat that is now a must-have for me is a nav light on top of my engine cover. This is an Atwood nav light here. This is US Coast Guard certified light, and we have it attached to my engine cover itself. So gone are the days of turning lights on, having to put poles in the bow, put poles in the back. I've got custom lights right into the bow, and then also this light on the back. So all I have to do, hit the power, hit the light, and our light comes on right there with the switch. Turn it off once, Jakers. So very simple, very easy, on and off. One thing in the past that I had is we had it hot wired, but there was no disconnect between the battery and the cover itself. Now this light is mounted directly to the cover. You can see how I can move it. It's not drilled into the cowling. We do have a piece of aqua traction underneath this piece so that the screws coming in from the bottom of the light can't scratch the cowling by any means. So a piece of aqua traction underneath, light attached to it, and then I had the guys put in a quick disconnect right here so that at any time if I just want to take the cover off and keep it off, I can. And then also they left the wires in for the plug in the back. If I ever do need to use the pole or want to use the pole, I still can. So we've got both of our safety features here, but that is a huge lifesaver. It's the highest point in the boat, so we're 100% legal. The light is legal from the Coast Guard, and it makes my life a lot easier not having to worry about the pole, having customers catch it on the back cast, and it just doesn't get in your way. All right, so one other thing that's really cool, the last couple years I've ran in my boat that I wanted to bring into this year's is a no-co plug. Now this plug right here is basically a male end extension cord. Now this plug, it goes back and goes into a 3-way splitter that runs both of my 3-bank chargers, the 345 PCLs. So one extension cord right there, plug it in. The beauty of having it in this location is that when my cover is on, I can still get to it. I don't have to pull my cover off in order to get to my plug. So you got the boat covered up if it's raining or snowing. You don't have to pull the cover off in order to plug the boat in. Simply grab an extension cord, stuff it into the back here, and you're good to go. Now we've got some holes to cover up here from some kicker stuff and whatever that still needs to get mounted. But as far as the no-co plug, this is a super awesome feature on the boat. Okay, so we're now here in the back of the boat, very important part of the boat, and transducer location is something that's very important to me, and I've got it kind of fine-tuned the last couple years with this specific boat, and I wanted the guys to make sure they put them in the exact right places. They absolutely crushed it. It's super clean, it looks great, and we're going to show that to you guys now. So with my electronics, with my side imaging, I run a Y cable set. I can run one left deucer and one right deucer. What that means is there's 2 side imaging deucers, one on each side of my engine, and one is designated to shoot to the right side of the boat, one is designated to shoot to the left side of the boat. Now what this aids in is it gets you the clearest picture possible due to the fact that your engine is not in the way at any point. Now, the one thing that's interesting with how I rig my boat up is that I actually put them on the vertical part of my step, and the difference in that is the last couple years playing with them, I can get a lot better reading at high speeds. I can see hard to soft bottom transitions in the 20 to 25 mile an hour range, and if I've got a good bottom, like a big sand flat on Green Bay, I can actually see schools of walleyes and specks of walleyes at 22, 25, 26 miles an hour, which is absolutely incredible. Another awesome reason to have the 2 side imaging transducers is that if at any point one of these would be ripped off by, say, a log or a rock or something like that, we can still utilize the other transducer that's on here to get us through the day. We're not going to totally lose our side imaging capability. So having 2 transducers is a must for me. Not only does it give me the clearest picture, but it also gives me a backup transducer if I ever were to need it. What we also did in the back here is we have two high-speed 2D transducers. We have an external mount and we also have a through hull. Now we're linked up to use the through hull as of right now. If anything were to ever go wrong with the through hull, we have an external one here as well. So I'm not exactly sure how it's going to read. This is my first year using a through hull, so I also wanted an extra one, being the external, to see how it's going to work, make sure that they all read at the correct speed. But again, we have an extra transducer if we ever rip one off or if one's ever to go down or break on us. I'm going to be able to use either one. This is huge for me with auto charting. It's something I do a ton of, especially in a lot of the lakes that I fish. I'm running auto chart every single day on my Humminbird units. So having a really good 2D reading is very, very important. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up the boat walkthrough for the new Lund. And again, a big shout out to the guys at Fish Electronics, Jake, Jared, and Mimong. Absolutely crushed this thing. Everything's labeled, everything's done to the best I've ever seen in a boat. I'm super stoked about the build, and I know if I have any issues, I'm going to be able to resolve them very quickly, look in there, everything's labeled, figured out, give you guys a call. You guys can give me a little bit of idea of what could be going on.
Yeah, no, it was fun working with you. It was a good job.
It's turned out super good. If you guys want to get a boat done of your own, get a hold of the guys here at Fish Electronics. Anything electronics, these guys will crush. They've got all the major brands and they've got all the know-how to get it done right.
Yeah.